Hey everybody! Today I wanted to talk about why certain Balisong companies have bad QC and why some seem to have perfect tolerances and great QC. Now, I would like to get started off by saying that a lot of companies that people say have really bad QC don't actually have bad QC. A lot of times if a Balisong comes with terrible tolerances, sometimes it can be caused due to shipping. Sometimes when a Balisong is put together, it can have a little speck of dirt or something that gets in the pivots. And if that happens, they're going to tune it at the factory and get it perfect. But during shipping, if that little speck of dirt moves, because it's not actually part of the pivot system, it's going to completely affect and change the tone, or the tune. So a lot of times I feel like people give these companies a hard time, when I do believe that out of the factory they are sending good products that just get a little messed up during shipping. Anyway, with that out of the way, I think a big company that a lot of people like to point to and say has bad QC is Squid Industries. However, Squid Industries by far is the biggest producer of Balisongs currently. And when you have such a high volume of products, even if your QC is like 0.5%, you're still going to have more Balisongs with bad QC than anyone else because you're producing so much. And I think that is the main issue with Squid, because a lot of people that complain about Squid's QC, you know, they complain online because it's bad, but if you get a good Squid product, you're not going to go online and say, oh my gosh, my Cracker Rackin' came in perfect condition, because that's expected. You don't think about the fact that it came out of the box so perfectly because you just expect it. You only go online and talk about it if it were to come out of the box with some issues. So while yes, Squid Industries, it appears that they have worse QC than other companies, I do believe that this is more just because those are the people that speak up about the QC and because Squid has such a high volume. However, companies like MachineWise seem to get no issues. So Squid does have issues, MachineWise doesn't. Clearly there is a difference in the level of QC. And a big part of that between different companies, I think, all comes down really to not necessarily how much they care, but just how much they're able to afford. Because MachineWise, Dalen once said that they have to throw away, I think it was about 60% of everything they make. So 60% of all their Balisongs. So if they make 100 Balisongs, 60 of them are going to get thrown away and they're only going to sell 40. Now, yes, as a customer, that's great. You're only going to get the good ones. But that's very expensive. And that is a big reason why certain companies are going to have to charge more for their Balisongs, because they have to throw away a higher volume of their stock. And that stuff's not cheap. Of course, in some ways, it can actually be bad for the consumer because they're throwing away 60 Balisongs, and where some of the issues might be cosmetic or might be a little finish issue that you don't personally care about. But the company wants to make sure that everything they produce is the best it can be, so they're going to throw it away. And that ultimately leaves less stuff available for you to buy and drives up the prices. Of course, a company like Squid probably isn't throwing away 60% of all their things, in part because they seem to have lower QC, allegedly, and just because they produce a lot more, and I would almost guarantee that they have their machining process very refined. So when people look at a lot of these companies with bad QC, a lot of the times they'll be much smaller companies. Like MachineWise is not a big company. The only real company in the Balisong hobby that is big is Squid. So most of these other companies, if they have bad QC, it's really because it's a cost-saving thing. And of course, Squid also has to save costs. Because they're so big and have so many employees, they have to have a certain amount of revenue. And if you didn't realize, the Balisong market has been on a decline for quite some time now, where it's hard to resell things, no one's really buying new battle songs. And as a result, I'm sure that companies like Squid have found it much more difficult to try and get enough money to pay all their employees. So sometimes they're going to have to say, well, this isn't as good as it could be, but this is definitely good enough that we feel okay selling it to the public. But sometimes people don't like that. And that's kind of where the whole bad QC comes from. Of course, sometimes also you can have a defective product. Defective products, often you're not going to realize they're defective until you get them and you use them for a little bit. But everything else looks fine, so the company really has no way of knowing. Of course, it'd be great if that didn't happen, like with companies like MachineWise. But that's just the case, you know? Same thing goes for tuning. While we would all love perfect tunes like this, no play, not every company has the time and resources to do a dedicated tune for every single Balisong. Some of them, I believe, like Nabali's, most of what Nabali's does is they make sure that their machining is really precise, and I think Squid does this too, so that they can just assemble their Balisongs. Like, I think Squid says for whatever, any Balisong, they have bushings, and then it's like 1/1000th of an inch. You can do 3/1000ths of an inch either direction, bigger or smaller, so that way all they have to do is assemble the Balisong and grab the right pair of bushings that's going to fit the blade. And that saves them the time of actually tuning each Balisong. Which, yeah, it means that they're not going to be perfect tunes, but it's a great way for a company to save a lot of money. Lowering costs, helps them pay rent, all those kinds of things. So those kind of my thoughts on the whole QC issue. I'd be very interested to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Have a goal, hitting 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. You guys have been killing it recently. I know we can do it. I have no idea when this video is going to come out. But yeah, whenever it does come out, I hope you've all had a wonderful day. There's a tree right there. And until next time, I hope that you all keep flipping.